So our group is going to talk about how Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Korea cope with COVID-19. So first, I'm going to talk about Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a mixture of traditional Han Cantonese and Sino culture of southeastern China, British and Western culture in general. English and Cantonese are our official languages, and Hong Kong is a very fast-paced country where everyone really values efficiencies a lot in everything, such as work, diet, or even shopping, which is related to what I'm going to talk about next. Right after the breakup, people were in a mad rush getting daily supplies such as toilet papers or some sanitizers and even medical face masks, where a box of face masks could be up to 750 Hong Kong dollars, which is why the stocks are always empty. And most citizens in Hong Kong are very worried about the pandemic. And knowing that this pandemic is affecting our daily life and economy seriously. Therefore, they overall they follow the epidemic prevention policy set by the government. The government set up some laws such as wearing masks in public, social distancing, where people have to keep a distance of at least 1 meter from others, minimize gatherings and trips outside home. Number of persons allowed in group gatherings in public places have been tightened to two. And lastly, there is no more eating in restaurants after 6 p.m. They also blocked the specific areas for COVID testing, such as Yau Ma Tei, Shamshui Po, and Jordan. And this is Hong Kong's current situation. There's a total of about 10,000 cases, and the effectiveness of the measurements, as you can see, throughout the month, the pandemic has gone through some unstable periods and has also brought some inconvenience for us, such as all kinds of services has been delayed, such as the basketball court and cinemas are all closed and the seats in the restaurants are reduced too. But as most people are following the rules, the situation is getting better. Then we're going to talk about Taiwan.
Okay, so I'm going to focus on the panic buying culture in Taiwan, which is that during the outbreak of COVID-19, as you can see in the picture, like everybody is like lining up outside of the store, and they are trying to buy the mask and the alcohol. Yeah, and as you can see in the picture, there are police officers standing beside them because there are really like hundreds of people trying to buy the supplies. And I think panic buying is a very small part of our culture. Is that there's a famous example in 3 years ago, which everybody is like rushing to Costco buying the milk tea. I think the student from KSHS or KGHS maybe have the experience that there are hundreds of people every day rushing to Costco to buy their milk tea because they are very cheap. So during the epidemic, and people are rushing to a store buying the masks. So there are some policy to in response of this. Next page, please.
Yes. Because of that, the government make most of the masks not to sold in stores but in pharmacies only. And we need to use our NHI card to buy the masks, so each one won't buy too much to make others got no mask. Besides, the masks are at an affordable and reasonable price, so every people in Taiwan can get their own masks to protect themselves during the coronavirus outbreak. Yes, next page, please.
Okay, so this is Taiwan's response of the COVID-19, but I think Group 4 already talked very deep about this. It's like such as passengers entering Taiwan must present a nucleic acid test report within 3 days, or like in a community prevention masks are required in places with high risk of infection and transmission. Yeah. Okay, next please. This is Taiwan's current situation, and as you can see, we only have 893 cases, and 803 of them are already recovered, and there are only 7 deaths. Okay.
Why do Taiwanese people often wear masks? Here's one of the reasons: the SARS experience. After SARS in 2003, Taiwan began building an emergency response network for containing infectious disease. When hundreds became ill and at least 73 died for the world's third highest infection rate, Taiwan later experienced pandemics like bird flu and influenza H1N1. As a result, its residents are acutely aware of disease fighting habits like hand washing and mask wearing. Here's a picture on the slides. Yes, since the SARS outbreak back in 2003, Taiwanese people have become quite health conscious. And mask is a good thing to keep your germs to yourself and to protect yourself from the air pollution of a million scooters. That's why Taiwanese people often wear masks even before the pandemic outbreak. Yes.
Okay, South Korea. Korean culture is profoundly influenced by Confucian principles, and this pervades not only personal lives but also business. Confucianism supports group harmony, respect for elders and authority, the importance of family, friendship and ancestors, and also tradition. South Korea's current situation. So this was as of January 27th, and the total cases were 75,875. The recovered cases were 64,793, and the total number of deaths were 1,371. How Korea has responded to Corona. South Korea closed its borders and was compliant with the travel bans applied against it. South Korea, despite some reluctance, was placed on a lot of other countries' country ban lists. The main factor contributing to this was how quickly South Korea was exposed to the virus. With few other countries reporting cases, Korea had to apply trial and error to all the responses it used to try to contain the virus. The country quickly implemented a mandatory mask-wearing policy. Facilities began researching and analyzing the virus enough to create high-performance and quality testing kits. The exponential rise in the number of infected people urged the government to carry out large-scale disinfections of public spaces and utilities. Korea's attitude towards Corona. During the earlier stages, most people were still a bit reluctant towards the act of wearing masks. However, after the pandemic instigated higher levels of fear, people began wearing masks to protect themselves and the public. The government was very active on searching for the sources of the outbreak and implemented many policies to face the coronavirus. There's a growing number of strict punishments being implemented towards those who do not follow the policies. These include fines, jail time, and public scrutiny. Previously, most of the old generation was slow to follow the rules. However, this continued to change as the virus spread. The effects of Corona. Since Korea's first case of coronavirus was reported in January 2020, the resulting financial damage and restrictions on in-person activities have had a disruptive impact across the country's culture and art fields. It is estimated that the public expenditure in the fields of culture and arts from January to June 2020 decreased by 38.8%, causing cultural industries to suffer. A drop in the general public's mood is a direct result caused by the isolation and social distancing measures the country has enforced. The desire to contain the virus has not only led to crashing economies, but also deteriorating states of mind. Anxiety, stress, and fear are ever-present feelings during these difficult times. A direct effect of anxiety led to the common illustration across the globe of self-seeking panic buying. Most people rush for toilet paper. However, in South Korea, more people focused on purchasing more rice and water than usual. Due to the growing concerns during the pandemic, the start of the school year was delayed by 5 weeks. It could not be put off any longer, however, and teaching online was quickly adopted. A few weeks later on, a 2 out of 3 rule was applied to allow students to attend school physically. This rule stated that only 2/3 of the entire school student population could be on campus at one time. The hit to the entertainment companies resulted in world tour, concerts, meet and greets, and album interviews being cancelled due to the growing fears. The health of fans, idols, observers, and others was of utmost importance, and so virtual concerts, empty interview rooms, and cancelled performances became a recurring theme. The usually bustling city streets were cleared of crowds, with many people opting to stay at home instead. My group and I wish for all of you to remain safe and careful. Our thanks go out to all the people risking their lives for our safety and those who abide by the rules applied to ensure everyone's safety. Love those around you and take care of yourselves. Thank you for listening to us.